Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Leanne, and I am the face behind Small Gestures, Vintage and Crafts. So I know it's been a hot minute. It's been a few weeks since I have been on here. Thank you for your patience and for waiting for me. Today has been a fun day. We did a little bit of thrifting and some estate sales this morning, and I have to show you, these are like one of my favorite things that I picked up today. Look at this whole vintage whole pottery vase. Is this not gorgeous? And I got, oh, I matched, look at that. And I got a pair, not one, but two of these. I absolutely love these. So I think I'm gonna put one in my booth and one in my Etsy shop. So if you're interested, I will have one listed in my Etsy store. The link is in the description box. But back to the video. This week's video is all about Sonnet's Maker's Box for the month of March. There are some beautiful papers in this month's box, some projects that I am super excited and happy to show you guys. I had a blast doing them. And when you are done with my video, if you will come back, I also have a playlist in the description box for the other creatives on Sonnet's creative team. They all create amazing things with these gorgeous papers and paints that Sonnet provides us each month. So come back after the video, check out the playlist, and stick around until the end, and I will let you in on a little Maker's Box secret. Okay? If you're ready, let's do it. So for this month's box, and I should say every month when you get a box, you will get a card that has a little QR code with a link to a YouTube video that will help inspire you for using the contents of that month's box. And then our little thank you this month is that bunny napkin. And this is paper by Roycycle. It's called Old English Countryside. It looks like a beautiful watercolor. And then Spring Tartan, this one is also a Roycycled paper. And then these two are from Connie Hemmer, the painted photographer. And this is Marshland Guardian, and this one is Secrets of the Garden. And the paints this month, the Sweet Pickins Milk paint is in completely coral, and Fusion paint is Acacia pear and damask. And then we have water lily and cake batter for the DIY clay base paint. These two, look at that. That is just like a match made in heaven. So for project number one, we are going to start off with that combination right there. So this is a wooden box that I thrifted when we were in Arizona over the holidays. And I am going to use the milk paint on the outside, and then we're going to decoupage the top. So I just, look at this. This is just a beautiful, I feel like I'm back in England from years ago. It's just a beautiful countryside image. I love it. The first step was taking off all this hardware so I could get it cleaned and then give the box a good cleaning. The previous owner had glued wood into the bottom of the box. So there was a long strip of wood that was stuck. So I'm trying to chisel it out without damaging. You can see the pile of wood there that I chipped off the bottom. And then a lot of this paint was failing and was chipping. So I just tried to scrape as much off as I could before I got busy cleaning it. And then in the lid, there were a lot of gouges. So this is Bondo. It's a two-part compound that you mix together, the hardener that in that little blue tube right there, and it's pretty stinky and it sets up pretty fast, but it dries super quick and it is rock hard. So I used that just to fill in. I was gonna leave them but decided not to. I just wanted to fill in some of those deep gouges in the top and bottom of this box. After the Bondo was cured, it got sanded, and then all parts of the box got 2 good coats of shellac. And now I'm just coming in with Dixie Belle mineral paint in white cap. If you have never used milk paint before, it is it's two-part paint that you use. It's a powder paint, and you mix equal parts paint, the powder mixture, and then warm water, and you can stir it together then for about 2 minutes, and you let it sit for 10 minutes. When I use anywhere over a scoop, I actually like to use this little frother that I have there. I picked it up off Amazon. It makes very quick and effective work of mixing it all together, and it really helps eliminate some of the clumps that you can get with milk paint. And then you just set it aside to sit for about 10 minutes. So while I was waiting on the milk paint, I decided to figure out what image I wanted to use on the top of the box. And you can see with the top being painted white, how that image just really kind of pops out, and it just stands out and looks much more vibrant than if it were on a dark background. So this is what they call a starter strip. And I'm using liquid patina by DIY in the crystal clear. I love using that for decoupage. And you just start off with a strip to get you going and spritz the back of the paper. It really helps loosen the fibers in the paper and eliminates the wrinkles that you may otherwise get. After decoupaging it, then I came in with another coat, a top coat of the liquid patina. And sometimes when you come in with a top coat, you'll see bubbles on the decoupage paper. Do not freak out. When it dries, they will be sucked back down and they will disappear. So now the milk paint is ready to go. And I can also say, don't freak out when using milk paint, because your first coat will look pretty cruddy. It'll be streaky and not be, it's not a good coverage paint one time, especially going over a dark color. So, in fact, I think I used 3 coats on this. This is drying the second coat, where I was just starting to see a little bit of crackle coming through. When the paper was good and dry, then I just used my finger sander and sanded the excess off the edges in a downward motion. And then now I get to sand the milk paint. You've got some cracks and crackle and some chippy, and you really want to sand off and get any paint that's going to chip off. Go ahead and get it out of there so you don't have to worry about it when you put a top coat on. And it also gives you, when you sand the milk paint, you get the most beautiful, smooth finish. It's absolutely incredible. I love it. So the inside of the box, I am using the Fusion paint in Damask that's in this month's Maker's Box. And it looks really pinky, but when it dries a little darker, so it's a really pretty mauve. And I thought that was a nice complement to the coral. I wanted to stamp a word onto the front of the box, so I'm using some of the letters from the Apothecary Labels stamp set by IOD. I had to mix up a little bit more of the milk paint, so I actually decided to do a 4th coat on the front of the box because I got absolutely zero chipping or cracking, and I was really kind of sad about it. And I'm so happy I did because it turned out exactly the way that I had hoped it would. Now milk paint needs to be sealed, so I am using the dark oil wax by Sweet Pickins. It's a little stinky, but the finish that it gives is just gorgeous. It sinks down, you just apply it, brush it on, and the paint soaks that oil up, and it really makes and highlights all of those cracks and crevices. It really makes them stand out. Paint it on, let it sit, for 10 minutes or so, and then I just went back in, and you just keep wiping it off and polishing it until the dark oil doesn't come off anymore on your rag. All of the hardware got a good cleaning as well, and then I reattached everything, and I love the color of this paint and this paper. This is an absolute favorite project of mine. For my second project this week, we are using the second paper from Roycycled, and this one is called Spring Tartan, and it's just a beautiful, I love that little tartan plaid with the blue and the green. So we're going to use this cutting board that I have had in my stash, and then we are using this. I had initially tried to do a milk paint finish on this, but when it chipped all the way down to the resin. So we are going to scrape off all of that failing paint and give it a coat of green paint. And I thought I was going to use the Acadia pear, but changed my mind. Luckily, this candlestick had not been sealed, so I was able to clean off a lot of the paint. And that green Acadia pear, when it dried, it was a little dark for what I wanted, so I actually mixed some of the water lily from this month's box along with, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank all of a sudden? Queen bee. I knew it was there. To mix up a green that would be a little better match for the green in the plaid. I wanted to add some texture to the paint, so I went back to an old standby, baking soda. If you don't have sea spray or salt wash, baking soda is a great alternative that can give you a textured look in your paint, and it's super easy. Most people have it handy, and it's pretty cheap too. I stippled it all around the candle holder and gave it 2 good coats and let it dry thoroughly. I wanted texture, but I didn't want that much texture. So I came in with a sanding pad and just kind of smoothed it out a little bit. So you'll see the end product, you can still see some of the texture, but it's not just as heavy, I guess. And then this cutting board got scrubbed really good with some Dawn soap and a Scrub Daddy and some super hot water, and then got a couple of coats of shellac, and now I'm just using some Dixie Belle mineral paint in Whitecap. If you have been thinking about signing up for Sonnet's Maker's Box, I will have a link in the description box of this video. If there is a wait list, and I believe there is currently a wait list for the Maker's Box, this link will allow you to bypass that wait list, and you can go ahead and sign up, and you will get a box full of creativity delivered to your door every single month. And I love it because it gives you like papers that I wouldn't use, paints I wouldn't use, like that completely coral Sweet Pickins milk paint. I love that color. I would not have picked that up if purchasing it for myself, to be completely honest, and I absolutely love it. I just realized I don't think I actually mentioned that we're going to be making a riser out of these two pieces. So the top part has dried, and I'm just, since the edges of this cutting board are rounded, I'm just going to start the process of wrapping everything around that curved edge, because I didn't want to end it right at the top. I want to continue that decoupage paper down the rounded edge onto the back of the board. So I'm just completing that same process with the liquid patina by DIY, and spritzing the paper, and then I'm making little cuts so I can curve it around the corners a little easier. So I'm giving the bottom part of this riser a coat of wax, clear wax by DIY, and I always scoop out wax and work out of the lid or something else. I don't want to be dipping my brush in to the wax. This paint actually sat for a good 24 hours, and by the time I was done, I could see green paint on the very tip of my wax brush, and if I were dipping it into my container of wax, then I would have contaminated my wax and be having to scrape out green paint out of that clear wax. After the clear, we're just going in with some white wax, and I'm putting it on and then just buffing off the excess, and you'll be able to see there's a little texture there. It's not in your face, but it really makes the white wax just really, I think, pop and stand out. I thought I had filmed it, but I did not. I cut a round circle of probably 1/8 inch plywood to go inside the top of this candlestick. You can see it tucked right there. I glued it with some heavy duty construction adhesive, and then used the construction adhesive on top of that wood disc to actually glue the top on to the candlestick base. Is my mixed green paint a perfect match to the green in the decoupage paper? Nope. But I love how it works together, and I love the clean, fresh look for spring and summer. Project number 3, I'm saying 3A and B this week. I'm using this little sign that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I got it on clearance. I think it was like 75% off. And we're using the paper by the Painted Photographer, and this is Secrets of the Garden. So I'm going to clean all these stickers off and sand down all of that paint. And now we're coming in with Acadia Pear. This is the fusion paint. It is a really pretty green. It does darken up a little bit once it dries, and it works beautifully with this paper. So I also have quite a few of these little house shapes in my inventory from Hobby Lobby several years ago. So I thought it would be cute to do one for a tiered tray too. This is the yellow in this month's box, Cake Batter. It is not a one and done coverage. It takes quite a few coats to get good coverage, but this is a beautiful, beautiful yellow. So I just had to share this. I picked up these 2 paintbrushes, and there was the most perfectly formed little heart. Do you guys ever have hearts that randomly show up throughout your day? It always gives me a little extra smile when I see those. So these are the images that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the smaller one on the little house shape, and I'm going to use that bigger one on the square piece. So I wanted to trim up the size of this paper, so I'm using just some water and a wet paintbrush. Rice paper is thicker and more fibrous than a regular decoupage paper or a tissue paper or a napkin, so I really like to get it a little more wet and let it soak in more before I go in and start pulling apart the paper. I just love how it gives it more of an organic look, and especially with rice paper, because you can see those little fibers off the on the torn edges. So this smaller one is done, and I wanted the bigger one to look a little different, so I actually cut a piece of drop cloth out this size or a little smaller than the wooden hanging sign, and I raveled the edges a little bit, and then we're going to decoupage that onto the little wooden sign, and then decoupage this, the flower, onto the drop cloth. Because I'm using drop cloth, a fabric, I wanted something a little thicker, so I just pulled out my Mod Podge to adhere the fabric to the piece of wood. And let's be honest, I'm stingy with my supplies, so I will reserve and hold back on the liquid patina until I'm using decoupage paper. If I'm using fabric or something heavier, I want something a little heavier and that's a little more economical, I guess. I don't want to paint the drop cloth, so I'm actually just painting the back of the rice paper. So again, the image will just stand out a little better. And then I'm doing the same thing. I'm still using the Mod Podge because it's going to go on the fabric, so that's going to absorb more of the product. And I went in a little heavier as well, and I love the way that they both glue down so easily using the Mod Podge. I have some little furniture tacks, or what are they called? Nail head tacks that I decided to use on each of the corners of that little piece just to give it a little extra something. This is good old Waverly antiquing wax mixed with some water, and I'm just going to use it as a stain to stain these little beads that were part of the hanger. And I thought I was going to be all smart and put them on a little skewer and paint them that way, and then I got smart and realized it would be much easier just to dump them in a bag with a spoonful of the stain mixture and smush them all around. DIY's Big Top is what I'm using to seal in the cake batter paint on this little house, because we're going to do a little stamping on the edges. This is one of the pieces in IOD's ephemeral type stamp set, and it looks like the page out of like a stamp out of a book, a page of a book. Am I making any sense right now? So I just came along all four sides and gave it a little stamp just to kind of mimic the background of the decoupage paper. For the larger one, we're also going to stamp the sides. This time we're going to use we're going to use the little crackle stamp in the Vintage Textures stamp pack. And the first time that you use stamps, you want to do what they call season them. Basically just take a little bit of sandpaper and you're going to scuff over the stamps lightly and then shift it 90 degrees and then do it again, and that's it. You're done. You never have to do it again, but that just ensures that the stamps absorb the ink, or that the ink adheres to the stamp a little easier. I'm using some black Stays-On ink and then just randomly, lightly stamping all of the sides of this little sign. I sanded the stamping on this yellow one and then just came in with, again, some of that Waverly antiquing wax mixture, just kind of lightly brushed it on and rubbed it around just to age these a little bit. My fourth and final project this week, we are using Marshland Guardian, this beautiful painted rice paper from Connie, and a cigar box. It's an odd combination, but I am totally envisioning something on my coffee table to put remote controls in. What do you think? Like everything else in this video, this got a good cleaning and a couple of coats of shellac, and we are coming on the top again with White Cap Dixie Belle Silk Mineral Paint. And I really wasn't worried about the embossing on the top of the box because I did put a couple of coats. I can't remember if I did 1 or 2 coats, but the rice paper is thicker and I had no problem with you seeing that embossing through the paper. So I thought about painting the inside of this box, and then I looked over and I saw the spring tartan, and look, they go gorgeous together. So I decided to decoupage the inside of the little cigar box, and here is the maker's box secret. Shh! You can go back and order previous boxes, or you can order extra copies of the decoupage papers. Pay for them and they will be included in your next month's box, so you can get extra papers. And these are papers that are only available through the maker's box. I tried to cut this paper as close as I could to the inside, and I had a heck of a time trying to get it lifted up so I could continue gluing. I didn't want to tear it, but that sucker was stuck down there pretty good. Another decoupage tip: when you are decoupaging and you put your medium down, do not start it right up against the paper. You see that I kind of put the liquid patina down a little bit and then work it up towards the paper. If you start off with a brush full of liquid patina right at the paper, you will end up with a stripe, and you will see it as it dries. So move your brush down a little bit and then kind of spread it up towards the paper for even coverage. Okay, I'm not going to repeat myself. I think you know the routine by now. The spritzing, the starter strip, all that good stuff. Do keep in mind, rice paper is a little thicker, so you may have to use a little bit more decoupage medium. I sometimes find that I don't use quite enough at the edges, and sometimes I'll have edges that lift up a little bit. No big deal. I just go back in with a little more liquid patina, press it down again, and that takes care of it. After decoupaging it, I came in again with another coat of Big Top, and again, if you see it bubble up, do not freak out. When it dries, it will glue back down, I promise you. As beautiful as this blue heron is, I wanted to add a little something at the top, so I just found some text in the Traditional Pots transfer book and just added it up at the top. In hindsight, I could have waited on that second coat of liquid patina and I just realized, I think I said big top earlier when I was talking about decoupage medium. I could have held off on that top coat of liquid patina because the transfer also needs to be sealed in. So I could have done one and done and waited until after the transfer, but live and learn. So I will have a link in the description box below this video if you decide you would like to start getting the maker's box delivered to your door. And if you like any of these projects that you've seen today, I am also going to try to go ahead and list them on my Etsy shop. So the link to that will also be listed in the description box. So after a final top coat on the top, we are finishing off the inside and with some twine, just hot gluing it around the edges just to finish it off a little bit. And that takes care of this box and this video. Thanks again for hanging out with me this week. I hope you enjoyed the projects that I showed you this week, and drop me a comment, please, if you haven't already. Like, subscribe, follow. It really does help small channels like mine, and we really do appreciate it. And let me know if you decide to sign up for the Maker's Box and tap into some hidden creativity that you might not know that you had. Once again, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.